so I'm just finally getting started on the engine stuff here. Got a couple of units and we're getting the 289 slowly pulled out of the F100. I guess it's a process, you know. When I was in school I had more time, but now that I'm quote unquote, I guess, a big boy and I got a real world job and stuff, it takes a lot of my time. I travel a lot, but definitely worth it, so kind of funds all this good stuff here. But anyway, I'm getting down to it. I want to do a little review on the little 1,000-pound engine cradle. So it's really nice for when you're kind of setting engines aside, which I'll bag this one all up. But anyway, setting them aside so you can roll them out of the way. They're only like 30 bucks on Amazon or whatever. They're really cheap. So a lot of the complaints are that they're hard to install, you know, they're kind of welded up funny, and people even comment they're not worth the money. But if you can build something like this for under 30 bucks, I guess all the power to you. You're clearly more handy than I am. So anyway, we'll get into it here and kind of some of the things that I go through when I put them together. And I just think that people struggle with some of the logic of, I guess, how to go about putting them together and hook them to an engine to make it easiest for them. But overall, as far as a product review, I really like them. They're really nice, you know, for the money, you just can't beat it. So with that, let's just get down to it and kind of go over how to install these things. So the first thing that I do when I'm hooking these to an engine is I'll unhook my engine from my engine stand if it was on that, or if I pull it out of a vehicle. Anyway, I'll leave it on my hoist and have it up in the air. Of course, you want to have it secured properly so that it's not going to fall on you. And then you're actually going to, instead of putting this stand together then hooking it onto the engine, you're going to kind of build the stand onto the engine itself. Now what I mean by that is you don't want to have this crossbar hooked in until you have all your two bell housing bolts back there and your 4 motor mount bolts hooked in. So it just makes it a lot easier. So I usually attach it on one side and I have the other side separated. Again, the engine is in the air at this time. So then with that, I'll go ahead and I first put my motor mount bolts in. They got some fudge room back and forth. And then I'll put my rear bolt in last. And how it works on the Ford is it just kind of slips over that dowel pin. So it kind of locates it in place, and then you can usually run that bolt down in. Now sometimes they don't line up perfect. And what you have to do, so I have another one here. Oftentimes, you know, they're kind of thin, and when they weld them, it kind of pulls this back piece forward. So it's kind of like holding it tight against the back of the engine, and you can't get your bolts in because this front mount is too far this direction. So, and it could be either way. It just depends how it's been pulled around. So, and this is again why you assemble it on the engine, because, you know, it just has these inconsistencies. Again, it's 30 bucks. So usually what I do is I just step on one end, you know, and just pull up on it a little bit, or, you know, push down, whichever way it needs to go in order for it to mount up. So usually you can get those on and then they're not hooked together. So usually then, once they are all hooked on, you'll have a gap. So this tube and this piece will be far apart. So then what I end up doing is I grab myself a hose clamp, and I'm looking around my garage here because I just put this one together. And here we go. So what I'll do is I'll put a hose clamp, and this is if you don't have a C-clamp, you know. You're bound to have a hose clamp laying around because you took your radiator hoses off, which is actually what this is from the F100 over there. So anyway, there's a bolt in the way now, but you'll hook it on here, run it down, it'll pull this together. You'll be able to get one bolt in, and then you can simply slide your hose clamp off and bolt the other end in, and you're all good. And then you can usually just lower it down on the ground and you're golden, really. So they're pretty sturdy. The casters don't seem to hang up. So I've used a lot of these over the years, and being only 30 bucks, I mean, you really just can't beat it. But have at her. Get your bend on. Like it was meant to be. Too far forward. Bend it backwards. And if you're using your brain and assembling it on the engine here, you could just simply throw your crossbar in. That's why the bolts, I guess, are so long. And then you can get them all attached and run them down. It'll pull everything together real easy.